Welcome back, everybody. I am John Ryan. This is the Predictive Playbook sports betting show, and I am pleased to have a good friend and pal here, Bobby Krivitsky, on the show. He is actually my host on many Fridays or Thursday nights on the Sports Map Radio, which is one of my favorite shows to be a guest of. And Bobby's a great host in his own right. So welcome to the show, Bobby.
John, I love coming on the Predictive Playbook, and as you alluded to there, you've been so gracious with your time coming on the Diehards on Sports Map Radio Network, helping to put more money in people's wallets and their bank accounts. So I'm happy to return the favor anytime.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, backstage here, we're going to talk a little bit of NBA, and obviously there's been a lot going on in the NBA. Kind of slowed down a little bit right now, and probably a good time to assess winners, losers, and the in-betweens. So I have to ask, I'm curious, because you're just such an NBA guru that would, guys, if you're listening to this and gals out there, if he says, like a futures bet on something or a prop bet on a player, you should tail him, because I do. So initially, who are the winners so far in the free agency time period here?
So I would start with the New York Knicks. This is a franchise that could not afford to take a step back after climbing to fourth in the Eastern Conference last season, but also the impact of having the most truncated campaign in NBA history. It pulled most franchises to around 500, some north, some south of the border there. And so it wasn't clear if the Knicks, as good as their defense wasn't as reliable as that team's moving forward under Tibbs, if their success was a mirage, though. So for them to become more balanced, add Kemba Walker, add Evan Fournier. And I know a lot of Knicks fans were upset about their contracts they're giving out. 3 years, $32 million to Nerlens Noel, 3 years, $30 million for Alec Burks. That's someone who his last four contracts, only one of them exceeded $5 million. But even the contract that they doled out to Evan Fournier, which is 4 years, up to $78 million with $19.5 million in AAV, average annual value, those deals all could come in handy at some point in a trade for a superstar, which has become a more likely path to acquiring someone of that caliber than free agency.
That's a very good point, because I had not considered that. So they would be very flexible then to go after some really big names. That's pretty cool stuff there, Bobby. Anybody else on the win list?
Yeah, I've got the Miami Heat on there for obvious reasons. Kyle Lowry, 3 years, $85 million, so they win that sweepstakes. He decides to pair up with a close friend of his, Jimmy Butler, and take his talents to South Beach. I understand some concerns. We're talking about an undersized point guard who's 35. He turns 36 in March. He's logged the 11th most minutes among active players as well. But when you watch him play, I'm not worried about it at all. They can pace him through the season. And it's such a significant upgrade defensively to the likes of Goran Dragic and Kendrick Nunn. And then offensively, I think he's going to allow them to recapture the magic they had in the bubble a couple of years ago, where it's pick your poison with him and Bam or him and Butler running pick and roll. They kept Duncan Robinson, so him operating off to the side where defenders don't want to help off such a deadly marksman. So the Miami Heat, the addition of P.J. Tucker, who fits that culture to a T. He reminds me a little bit of when they got Jay Crowder at the deadline a couple years ago as well. Plus, he gives them the option to go small ball with Tucker at the 5. So I really think that they had a strong offseason.
Now, when the wins totals come out, because I don't think they are out yet for the NBA, obviously these two teams would be to play over.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that Miami, it wouldn't surprise me if they finish third in the East. And when it comes to the New York Knicks, it's going to be really interesting to see where, as we get closer to the start of the campaign, the line is on that one, because they're going to have more variance from fourth to maybe people don't buy into someone like Kemba Walker, who sits a lot as of late to nurse his knee injuries. So it could possibly be a disastrous season, as productive on paper as it looks like they had this summer. So maybe the Knicks fall all the way into the play-in tournament.
Any other winners or losers that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I'll be quick on the biggest loser of this offseason. We all know who that was. Dennis Schroeder turns down 4 years, $84 million to be the starting point guard for the Lakers alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Settles for less than $6 million to come off the bench for a Celtics team that seems like they're punting this campaign away. And secondly, I think the New Orleans Pelicans, it's dumbfounding to see what's going on with David Griffin, who deserved so much of the praise he was getting during his time with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But now he passes on last season when Zion is ready to compete for a title. And with a body that's as unique as Williamson's is, we don't know how gracefully he's going to age. they seem even worse on paper right now than they were a year ago, and they just missed the play-in tournament. So maybe they pull off a trade for someone like Beal or Lillard, but it seems like both players are staying put at this point. And Zion's family already wants him out of New Orleans. If they miss the play-in tournament, or they're the 10th seed, for instance, and get bounced before reaching the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised, John, if Zion Williamson becomes the first player in NBA history to reject the rookie max extension offer to get to the free agent market faster.
I agree with you 100%. The numbers are mind-boggling. Joe Embiid got a max extension. They're just throwing them around like they're cookies. Here, have a $196 million contract. But you are right about Schroeder. I never really quite understood the story behind him walking. But when someone hands you a check, and a lot of that I think was guaranteed too, right? Like about a third of it. Yeah. I mean, that's insane. To play with LeBron. I don't know if
that was his agent or him who's most responsible for driving the bus on that one. But if it's the agent, I hate to call for someone's job, but I couldn't bring him back.
Well, I mean that sounds like a lawsuit there. I mean that's that's a big difference. That's a inept agent, whoever he is. And anyway, any other losers or winners you want to highlight before we go into the Major League Baseball card today?
No, I'm ready to shift over to the talk on the diamond.
All right, so guys, this is going to be a little bit of a different twist, and it's one of the many good reasons I like having Bobby come on, because he's a good prop guy, and I think he has a couple of really good prop bets for us to tail tonight.
Yeah, I'll start with Jose Barrios, over 5.5 strikeouts. You can get that at -130 on BetOnline. He's delivered 142 punch-outs in 138 innings pitched this season. He's got more than 5.5 strikeouts in 15 of his 23 starts, including 4 of his last 6. He's yet to face the Nationals, a team that's pretty disciplined at the plate, top 5 in strikeout percentage. But at the same time, Barrios is someone who ranks 4th in innings pitched in the American League, so you know that he's going to be on the mound for quite some time today. He ranks in the top 10 in strikeouts per 9 innings pitched in the AL in each of the last 4 years, so I trust him to come through on that front.
That's good stuff, and obviously Washington's kind of mailed it in of late. Who else do you have?
So I've got the Rockies, Cubs. This one is fascinating, John. I'm taking the under 14 runs. It's the highest over-under that's been set this season. You can get that at -110. I know it's a little bit of a Grinch approach to play the under here, but if you follow the trends, the under is 15-5 in Colorado's last 20 home games. I get that it's Jake Arrieta against Chichi Gonzalez, 2 fill-in starters. Arrieta has really struggled this season with the Cubs. That's why he got released. He's making his Padres debut today. Chichi Gonzalez is just coming off the COVID list with an ERA over 6. But at the same time, the Padres bullpen has the lowest ERA in the MLB. And the Rockies, they've won 6 in a row against San Diego at Coors Field. They're 40-21 in their Casa this season. So I think that ultimately it's going to come under 14 runs today.
Yeah, I like that play quite a bit. I had an under a couple of days ago out there in Coors Field, and it came through in flying colors. It was 13.5, which I think was tied the highest at that point, or 13. They ended up scoring 11, though. I mean, it gets pretty nuts, in the 9th inning when they all of a sudden score 6 runs between the two teams. But I definitely like that play a lot. Any others?
Yeah, I got one more for you. The White Sox, I think that they're going to beat the Athletics once again. My advice, I know some people aren't comfortable with this, is to play the money line, even though it's at -177 on BetOnline. But Lance Lynn has been one of the most consistent and quality starters in the American League this go-around. I understand that he just had a tough go against the Yankees where he gave up 4 earned in 5 innings, but it's only the second outing where he's allowed more than 3 earned runs this season. He's got a 2.13 ERA at home. The Athletics have lost 3 straight, 4 of their last 5. They got shut out the other night in a 9-0 defeat. Cole Irvin is dependable, but the Southsiders have the 7th best slugging percentage against lefties. So I understand the concern again when you look at -177. Ultimately, I still think that it's worth it.
I like it quite a bit, and it was dreadful last night watching that line drive hit Bassett, and it was very, very scary. But fortunately, I mentioned it that the news seems to be somewhat encouraging. That although he's at home, they have to wait for the swelling to go down. They'll do some surgery, and everything's expected to go fine for him moving forward. but it is a huge loss for the A's, and that team has to come back tonight and play. And when you witness something like that as a player, it's got to be just absolutely horrifying. Just I don't even know what the words are, but glad to know that he's going to be okay eventually. So that's much better news than what we saw last night. That's it for baseball. Let's quickly move into the NFL. And this is going to be my favorite part of the show, Bobby, because I want to see about your wins totals and if you have any unders, or we can start with the overs, whatever you want to do.
So I want to start with an over, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers at 8.5 wins, plus 115. Again, this is all from BetOnline. Their defense ranks top 3, at least last season, in yards per play, turnovers, and points allowed per game. So while their offense, by the time the postseason rolled around, looked more like a paper tiger, and they got exposed at home against a division rival, no less than the Cleveland Browns, they go out in the draft. They had Najee Harris, a dynamic running back from Alabama. Generally, I'm not a proponent of taking running backs in round 1. It's just not good value, even at the top of the draft, even at the bottom of it. But still, this is one of those unique cases where you have a team that is actually capable of winning a Super Bowl but needs to become more balanced. Harris goes a long way towards checking that box off for Pittsburgh, and it wouldn't surprise me, quite frankly, if they eclipse 8 wins with ease.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think they could be one of the most underrated teams in the AFC, if not the NFL. Who else do you see?
So I do have 2 unders for you here. I'll start with the Washington football team. I think they're going to fail to reach 8.5 wins. You can get that minus 110. Again, BetOnline. The 22nd most difficult schedule. So as fearsome a front 7 as they have, particularly that defensive line led by Chase Young, I just don't see Ryan Fitzpatrick, even if we get the best version of him, leading them to over 8.5 wins this season. And that's also factoring in the 17th game. But again, I don't have enough confidence in that team or the talent they have on paper.
And on BetOnline, they also have varied number ranges of wins. So, for example, Washington 5 to 9 wins minus 260, 10 to 14 plus 175, which certainly is nowhere close to even interesting me to even try to pull that one off. 0 to 4 wins plus 900. That's a little bit better. But as you said, they're probably going to be in that 6, 7, 8 win range, and that doesn't really give us much opportunity other than to play a big favorite at minus 260. But I was just pointing it out that it's one of the few sites I've seen so far that gives you a range to bet in, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, BetOnline is fantastic when it comes to all sports. They're able to offer quite a bit for the consumer.
So you have one more under for us, I guess?
I do, and this is the most common one that you've heard tossed out this summer. Jacksonville Jaguars, under 6.5 wins. You can get that at minus 115, at BetOnline. I would not be surprised if Urban Meyer's tenure in Duval is a disaster and gets off to a rocky start to send it in that direction. And that's someone who, like everyone, believes in Trevor Lawrence, but still there's a lot to overcome down there in Jacksonville. They've got to deal with the Titans and Colts in their division. They're probably not going to take a game off either one of them this season. They have to play the NFC West, which if it's not the best division in all of football, it's second best behind the AFC North. They also have to deal with the AFC East, where they're not going to get a win going up against the Patriots or the Bills, presumably. Maybe the Dolphins. It's at home. I don't think that makes a big difference, quite frankly. The Jets, depending on how Zach Wilson's rookie campaign goes, that could be a fair fight. Maybe it's not. But ultimately, I just don't see Jacksonville climbing to 7 wins.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I've asked this question to everybody. I'll put you on the spot. Who wins more games, Jacksonville or the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, it's the Eagles, so I hope you'll take some comfort there. But I'm a Jalen Hurts believer. I think the offense is going to look better this season. I'm sure you just saw that catch against the Patriots from Jalen Reagor the other day.
Yep.
That was someone I really liked coming into the draft a couple of years ago. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bounce-back sophomore campaign to go along with the selection of Devontae Smith from Alabama.
And I agree with you 100%. I think I even mentioned it on your show. The combination of those two, I think, is going way under the radar. And those two are going to stretch the field like no Eagles offense has ever done because they're both elite speed. Reagor could be one of the fastest wide receivers in the league. He just had a bad combine, and he dropped down low enough that the Eagles, in my opinion, stole him. And Hurts throws that nice long 65-yard rainbow, and Carson Wentz couldn't throw that, and it's going to be fun. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, Devontae Smith, it already knows Jalen Hurts and vice versa. There's chemistry there already. So as long as he has time to throw, it could be a totally different story than what we're seeing right now in Philadelphia. That's for sure. Bobby, any final thoughts on anything you're working on over there at Sports Map Radio and the other places that you're involved with?
Yeah, so I'll plug the show. You guys can check us out every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on the Diehards on the Sports Map Radio Network. We do air on 96 radio stations around the country, but I think the easiest way is to either pull up the Sports Map Radio Network app or just go online, sportsmapradio.com, and you can check us out there.
That's awesome, Bobby. I have my strongest total going in about 10 minutes in the Toronto matchup.
See, we're playing the same game. I've got Barrios, you've got the Blue Jays.
And I'm a little nervous with it, but the machine learning stuff says this. by a lot. But it's one game, and I try to teach everybody that comes on board that this is a marathon. You don't judge a season or results by one 5-unit play not coming through. But this one I felt pretty good about. Sometimes, Bobby, when I feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? Those are the ones that win like by the 5th inning.
Yeah, when you're closing your eyes as you get to the gate, but those tend to be the ones that are the most rewarding.
And I know we have 8 no-hitters. And this is another thing I ask people, and you don't have to answer. I'm not trying to make it a trivia question. The last time that happened was 1884 in Major League Baseball. What other event rule change occurred in 1884 in Major League Baseball?
I'm not even going to waste people's time trying to think of the answer.
It's that they changed the rule and allowed pitchers to throw overhand.
Oh, that's hilarious!
Isn't it?
You had to throw underhand?
It's my understanding.
So like softball.
Only Tony Finn of Waiter Talk was around then, so I'll have to ask him on the next show here with Manny's Pub.
So maybe the pitch was real popular back then.
It had to be. And as we found out with technology, Cy Young didn't throw 100 miles an hour. He was right around 80, 82. So I found that interesting that our launch angle and hitting, which I hate, is the reason why we're having 8 no-hitters. I'm not taking anything away from those guys, and technically it should be 9 because Bumgarner threw a no-hitter in a 7-inning game, but that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Yeah, really. I'm with you there. I also think that Spider Tack had quite a bit to do with it as well, and whatever the MLB was doing to the baseballs going into this season, I think that was a factor also. Yeah,
I think so too. Well, Bobby, we're out of time, but I really appreciate you having the time to join me here. And I'll look forward to, I think next week I'm possibly popping on the Sports Map radar again.
So we can discuss it offline, but I do believe the plan, John, is to get you this Friday night, 8:40 p.m. Eastern. I highly recommend
that is correct.
To get John's advice because it doesn't matter. We've gone all around this summer, from the Olympics to the NHL and NBA playoffs. You name it, we discuss it on the show, and John's advice is consistently on the money.
You're my lucky charm, I guess. Sometimes some hosts are better than others. So anyway, Bobby, thanks again for your time. And on behalf of Bobby, SportsMap Radar, SportsMemo.com, WagerTalk.com, and these Predictive Playbook shows, may all the wins be yours.